So the debate over the Kenya Moore saga rages on, and now we have some thoughts from a former executive producer. Well, I guess we can still say current executive producer, but someone who also used to be a cast member on a hit reality franchise, and that is Mariah Huck. So we're going to talk about her comments about the whole Kenya Moore suspension, alleged firing, and then we're going to get into some love and hip hop news. Young Jock and Kendra divorcing over some footage that was released recently. So we're going to talk all about it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so. Hit that notification bell button and join the Sky Squad membership community where we have already dropped quite a few nice little gems for you guys. And we've got more on the way. All right, you'll get it first, then it'll appear here on YouTube. So let's get into the Biz Naive. Okay, so I woke up this morning and I thought to myself, okay, always, what's going on in the news? What's popping, right? So I saw this clip and it looks like, yo, the funniest part of this clip is Mariah saying, yo, this should be on TikTok. And somebody was like, it already is. She was like, oh, okay, we TikToking now. Okay. So anyway, make sure you guys are following Buffy and Mariah Huck on all platforms. You know, they do have the podcast together. So make sure you guys are tuning in and tapping into that because they do commentate. They do commentary on issues regarding, everything from pop culture, entertainment news to reality TV news as well. So Mariah is basically, they were talking about, Kenya Moore and Portia Williams being friends now. And then Mariah says, well, Kenya ain't even on it no more because of the news that's going around. So we still don't know whether or not that's actually been solidified. I mean, we haven't gotten word from Bravo, but it's sounding like there is an issue. But Mariah is like, I do believe that the producers were involved. She basically questions, well, like, how did all of these things, like, how did the poster boards get there, without them knowing? Also, she's like, how can you hold her accountable when there aren't any rules set in place? Okay. Why is it now that everybody's getting fired when production also knows what's going on and what's about to happen? She says it's called production meetings. So that led me to think, like, it's interesting. We have interesting questions to ask. I mean, it was a public event where members who were members of the public, the general public who are not cast on the show, were asked to sign NDAs, I'm quite sure, as is normally the case with filmed, anything that's filmed by production, right? So typically people aren't allowed to talk about it, but of course there was audio and there was also video or photos of the alleged posters that we did see, at least saying insurance fraud ho, which we can speculate was about Britt Edie, excuse me. So what do you guys think? It's interesting. Mariah Huck is technically still an executive producer of Married to Medicine, and she's been in the reality TV space. So she knows how a lot of this works. So my question is, do you guys feel that production knew anything about this? Because when we kind of go back, I think I was reading in the comments someone saying something about, well, was production involved with the did they know, or how involved were they with regards to things leaking like the Bolo situation? Or we go back to not really. Here's the thing. It's interesting. It's an interesting question to ponder over now, because when you look back over the course of time of shenanigans that have occurred on Real Housewives of Atlanta, specifically, we go back to the Bolo of it all. We go back to, you know, I kind of go back to the Tanya and the Cookie Lady of it all. We can go back to, people thought that production had something to do with the Phaedra Candy and Portia of it all. So I don't know. It's an interesting space to be in and to watch because you do sometimes hear of production sort of having a hand in things. So it does muddy the waters a bit to figure out how to separate when that's the case and when it is not the case, right? So coming from someone like a Mariah, it adds validity to that statement because also she's the one who's saying it, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you feel that production knew about this? And then does production also have, should we be looking at production as like how are you going to hold her accountable when you haven't set up any rules for engagement and how the cast should be, acting or reacting? What constitutes going too far when there has been no line set? I think that's what Mariah is asking here. So let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Now, let's also we're talking still about production, right? And this is so interesting because we just yesterday got the word that Love and Hip Hop Atlanta would be returning on July 23rd, right? Now, I always feel like whenever Love and Hip Hop is filming, something comes out, and maybe this is a similar situation to what's going on with Atlanta, but something always comes out on the internet that is so super scandalous, and then we watch it play out during the season. So is this the setup is kind of what is being asked here. Now, so let's get into it. So Young Jock took to the radio to set the record straight about a video that surfaced recently on the Instagram site Gossip of the City. Make sure you guys are following Gossip of the City, and that way you can see the full clip. But right here, you can see a portion of the full clip. I can't really play this because the content from the radio station does not belong to me. But if you look at the site right here, what you can see is Jock is talking very closely to a woman in white who is not Kendra, and it looks like the woman is in his face. Now, he is trying to explain exactly what is going on in this video. So when I continued to do some research, I went to the Atlanta BlackStar.com site where they talked about it. And, Jock admitted that he hadn't seen the video initially and had to check the site to understand the accusations. But he is denying claims that he was holding hands with this woman or cuddling with her. And he said he couldn't even sleep that night. Now, as he and his colleague, sort of continued to speak about the post and he's trying to dismiss it, you know, the video is kind of it's interesting. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what is happening, except for the woman looks like she is really in a close, intimate proximity with him, and she is up in his face talking. And I don't know if they're holding hands or not. It's definitely kind of hard. Um, but what I found interesting is this, because he says, if you look at the clip, am I cuddled up? That's not cuddled up. And he says he was actually confronting the woman and trying to smooth things out following an incident involving her, another person, and Tamar Braxton. Now, what Tamar Braxton has to do with this, I really don't know. But like Tamar seems like, I'm sure Tamar is probably somewhere like how I get in it. But this is kind of crazy considering what all is going on with Tamar right now. But as he was on the radio, Jock actually ignored Kendra's call while he was talking about the situation on air. And his co-host is like, well, I would answer that call. Okay. So then he gets a text from Kendra who saw the video, and she is basically blasting him to her mom and to him in the text. and says, "I'm divorcing Jaceel, mom. A blog has accused him of cheating on me, so I'm done." Okay. Now, apparently, this is where things get interesting to me because Atlanta Black Star reports that when filming Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, cameras are everywhere catching more than what is seen in the video. He was then asked if he suspected that someone from the show might have leaked the misleading video, but he says he was not certain. And he was real careful to talk about it because he says, "I don't know if somebody was just being messy trying to do that, but it's an issue because it's like you can't do nothing." Okay. So it has people wondering if production leaked this footage. Now, this again goes back into our discussion about what Mariah was saying. Okay. Does production have their hands too much in the pot, or is this more story? Okay. It's just interesting the timing of it all. I always think about these things in terms of the show cycle, and I ask myself the hard questions like, why are we seeing this now? Is this going to be playing out on the show? Like, I'm sure we're going to be seeing Sierra and her sisters and her mom's drama playing out on the show. Kendra and Jock have been down this road before, plenty of times, and I just kind of feel like, at this point in time, Kendra has chosen to stay in that situation, kind of knowing his previous behaviors. So at a certain point in time, do you think to yourself, okay, he's a changed man now? Or do you kind of just come to expect certain things to come along with being with someone who is in the spotlight in the way that he is? I really don't know, especially considering that you have to also add into the mix the idea that a show is currently filming and what's going to make the show pop, what gets the fans riled up. And people are very, very vocal about their thoughts about Kendra and Jock and her staying with him through all of the things that she stayed with him through. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see how all of this plays out when the new season of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta actually airs on July 23rd. And we'll get to see, what we feel like is really going on. Will he be vindicated? I don't really know. All I know is I take everything now at this point with a grain of salt. So, like, when you hear me talking about it or you hear me offering critiques, don't take what I'm saying to be so personal because I'm talking about what's happening in social media that tends to lead to the television. Okay. And so when we look at it from that lens, I think it becomes easier to have discussions about it in a much more healthy way because you kind of have to look at it like what's real and what is not real, or what's real and really being set up, right? As Mariah spoke about as well. And what happens when what's real in the reality goes too far, a la Kenya Moore allegedly? And what happens to that person when they get caught up in that cycle and then they take things to a level that crosses a line that has not ever really been established? Good questions, man. Good questions. I'm super excited to find out how things will shape up and shake out. And I'm, like I said, like y'all, I'm a fan. I'm watching to see what happens and how it all plays out on screen. So with that being said, y'all, I hope you have an amazing Friday. I've got a brand new video with Chris. Yes, yes, yes. C Diggy is in the building, and I will be dropping that either to this afternoon or tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. With that being said, y'all, I will catch you in the next video.